Well, welcome to SwingPoint Media. Hey, welcome to SwingPoint Media. I'm Jeff Harrison, and this is basically our weekly training. We do a weekly training on Wednesdays at 10:30. And the big thing about today that I want to share with you is I'm flying solo today. My business partner, Amy Anderson, who normally is behind the scenes and changing things as far as cameras are concerned, putting these cool little, lower thirds on and the logo over here, it's going to be me today. So we might move just a little bit slower when we do that. So just be a little patient with me. And today we have a topic we're going to talk about that not a lot of businesses are doing, but they're going to be forced to do that. We just started recently doing something called personalization, and we're going to talk about that in another episode, but that's another level that you can start doing, but only after you do this first piece, which is segmentation. So what is segmentation? Well, I want you to think about a couple things. I'm going to throw a few things on the screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. But basically, if you think about this, segmentation is a lot like a menu. Now, I grabbed a little screenshot on there in case you're thinking, hey, what's the deal with El Corso? It's just simply, if you think about segmentation, it's nothing more than saying, hey, you know what? I want to make sure that when I go into that restaurant, I kind of know what they're serving. I want to know what they're serving. So I'm going to call that the first layer of segmenting. It's just kind of getting an idea, hey, what do these people offer? As an example, if you came, you're coming into this program and you're wondering, hey, what exactly does SwingPoint Media offer? Well, we are a local marketing company who specializes with restaurants in getting them more reservations. I mean, that's really our gig. Now, for the last 5 years in our business, we've done a lot of, I don't want to say zigging and zagging, but it's just like anybody else. You open up a new business and you have these concepts, these ideas of what you're going to do. And then over time, they get more and more refined. A friend of mine who will be doing a show with later this afternoon, Leslie Spohr, she says, hey, you got to get in your lane and stay there. But sometimes, I probably would have been picked up for DUI because I was bobbing and weaving. But we've never strayed away from using video as our primary source of communication. We've done many shows, whether it's a local marketing insight, it's a local voice, the Fairway Executive, all kinds of shows of that nature has always been on the platform of video. Now we're just saying we're going to take video, combine that with paid advertising, and now we're going to help restaurants specifically. Even though we could do it with any business, we want to focus specifically on restaurants to help them get more business. So if you think about that, that's like a menu. So the next thing we want to do is say, hey, now that we have the menu, what exactly is it? Well, we want to start breaking it down by departments, if you will. It's like that's the next step if you think about it. That's breaking things down by department. It's like if you went into Macy's, like, hey, what's on floor 1? What's on floor 2? What's on floor 3? And what does all this mean? Well, if you're going into Macy's and you're just kind of shopping around, you don't really care what floor you're on. But if you're going in, you're looking for something very specific, you want to know what floor it's on. And because of that, when you go to that floor, you want to make sure that retailer, and Macy wants to make sure that when you check in there, that you are going to see what you expected. So as an example, let's say, for instance, you entered off the parking garage and you came into floor 2, but you're looking, as you see here on the screen, you're looking for cookware. Well, you can look all you want on floor 2. It's not going to be there. And then your customer, if you're Macy's, your customer is going to leave with a bad taste in their mouth because, hey, they don't have anything there. Well, the way to get around that is to segment your audience. So as soon as they walk in, there's a sign up there, and I know there is, and the same thing when you go into a mall or a large area, they have segmented and say, hey, cookware on floor 1. So now you know exactly to go to floor 1. So I'm going to call it the second stage. And again, this is just an overview. And then finally, what's going to happen is you're going to want to segment your market even further and say, well, what do these people like? Like, what do these people like? Are they breakfast? Are they lunch? Are they dinner? Are they happy hour people? Who are they? And why this is so important, gang, is this. If you don't segment your market, What happens is you're trying to talk to people in a very generic or general terms, and what happens is you're going to lose some people. Instead of saying, wait a second, in this particular environment, I want to speak to people who, are more interested in breakfast. Well, if this is the case, then you're speaking to that breakfast crowd, and you can talk about omelets and the flakiness of how it's cooked and the kind of vegetables you put in. They're all fresh and they're grown locally, and whatever that entails. Because that audience is more in tune. They're more interested in that. Just like when you went into the mall, that person went into the mall. They're interested in cookware. They don't care how great a sale is going on for cosmetics. They're not interested. But if you're trying to talk to them about cosmetics, you turn them off and they leave your store. Well, the same thing about segmenting. If you look on the internet, especially on the social media platforms, you see a lot of this going on where the businesses speak in these general terms, and when that happens, yeah, you're interesting some people, but most people are then moving away from your message. Give me just a second. Okay, so we had a little emergency there. I'm in my home office today, and that was my cat who loves to open the door. When he opens the door, he lets the light in from another room. So anyway, that's just a little, hey, that's live, right? This happens. My cat invaded the office. Yeah, typically when I'm working, I'll have the cat, and he'll be laying down over there, and he doesn't make any noise. But he's one of these cats that actually can open the door. And so I have to lock it. And when I came back in to start the program, I forgot to lock my door. So anyway, back to the segmentation. So we're working on making sure that the audience we're talking to is interested in our message, so more people will listen. So let's get into today's program. So what I've done is I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm just going to go through a little PowerPoint with you. And I'm going to pop myself down here in the corner so I can kind of stay relatively in the shot. And so what we have here is, again, I think of segmentation as it's a personalization key to communication. And as we've talked about, if it's somebody who comes into your restaurant, let's say you serve wine, and you know that customer who comes in frequently, maybe it's once or twice a month, or maybe it's once or twice a week, and you don't know, like you don't have a profile on these people, and when they sit down, they're treated like they've never been there before. Now, I know you're not doing that, but what happens is it's non-personalized. It's like, wow, what goes through their head? It could be, do they really care about my business? Do they really care that I'm here, or they just care that I pay the check at the end of the night? Are they doing anything special? So I think this whole thing is, remember I said at the very beginning, segmentation is the beginning of personalized communication. And if you're doing generalized communication, there is a time and place for that. But once you have these people in your audience, you need to start segmenting them down. And let's talk about exactly what the heck is segmentation. So segmentation is too big for this screen. Let me just size it down here. There we go. So what is segmentation? Segmentation is the craft, I say, or the process of clearly defining your customers. And as I said, hey, are they coming in your place for cookware? Are they looking for bedding? Are they looking for furniture? What are they looking for in your restaurant? What do they do? Are they people who come in and they only eat breakfast at your restaurant? Do they come in for lunch? Do they come in for dinner? Or are they they go to all three of those, depending on that? And then when they come in, what do they like? Are they vegetarians? I guess there's vegans. There's going to be people who are meat eaters. They love fish, shellfish, whatever it is. You want to help clearly define who these customers are. It also then lets you break that down, their interest, into smaller groups. Like, hey, what do they like? What do they dislike? Like I said, maybe they don't like seafood, right? Maybe they love, maybe they only love meat, and they only like it when it's organic or grass-fed. What are their activities? In other words, are they coming in Wednesday nights, because that's an evening that corresponds with something they do early in the day. I'll give you a very specific example. Sundays after church, my wife and I like to go to breakfast, and we would frequent the Fix on El Paseo. And it got to the point where, hey, that was every time, and we got to know the young lady in there, and she was always sweet, and they knew us. And it was one of those things, after we did this for a while, we sat down, they said, and I love this, would you like your regular? I just love that. That just because the activity of going to church and then afterwards, that's our thing. That's the only day we're down there, because we live in La Quinta, and going down on El Paseo for breakfast is not as convenient, but it is after we go to church. So find out what the activities are that bring people in. And it's very simple. You know, your servers can say, hey, wow, what brought you guys in tonight? Anything special going on? Well, yeah, we're heading to a concert at McCallum. Oh, that's cool. Or we're heading to a concert, period. And we thought we'd get an early dinner. Oh, do you do that often? Yeah, we like to do that before we go to the concert or before the function. And then frequency. How often do you go? Well, like I said, with the Fix, we're going every week. It's once a week. And then what hours do you like to go out to dinner? You know, some people, and I see this more and more, our friend Andy Hubka, who has Cooking with Class and Cork and Fork, I just noticed she has now extended her happy hours. Why does she do that? She's a very, very smart businesswoman. I know she has a theory and a strategy behind that, but maybe it's one of those things where there are some people in your audience, if you will, your clients, they are people that say, hey, you know, we get up really early in the morning, so we like eating dinner at 5 o'clock. We go home and we're in bed by 8. But then there are other people that don't even start dinner till 8 o'clock. Well, you're going to speak to those people differently. I promise you, you're going to speak to them differently, and it's going to make a big difference in how you or how they support your business. So let's talk about the next one. So what are the benefits of segmenting your audience? Well, first of all, and we talked about this a little bit, better communication. Because now you're going to be speaking that language. You know, we always hear this growing up as well. There's this communication gap, because I had trouble at a certain age communicating with my parents or communicating with my grandparents because they didn't understand how things were today. You're going to have the same situation if you try to talk in general terms. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to be successful. I'm just going to say if you do some segmenting, it's only going to improve the communication with your customer. It also allows you to create clearer messaging. So let me give an example. Remember I said there are times people come out and they say, hey, they come to that 5 o'clock dinner and they're out by 6, but then the other people don't show up till 7:30 or 8, right? So if you create clear messages that portray, hey, this is a perfect time to set out under the misters and watch the sunset. Well, let's face it, if I come at 8 o'clock at night, I'm not going to see the sunset. But if I have a message directly targeted to that group and talk about how I've set up the patio so that people can have dinner on the patio and they can watch the sunset and a beautiful evening, toast wine over the sunset, that's a different message, right? You would target those people with that kind of message. On the other hand, it may be something where the messaging would be different for those people coming in a little later. It also, if you use, whether it's text messaging, whether it's Facebook Messenger, it's email, it's going to improve the open end responses rate. And the reason it is because now it feels like you're talking to them. I mean, how many of you, raise your hand, how many of you have ever received something and you're going, why did they send this to me? They know I don't like this. I'll give you another perfect example. Staples, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, but Staples, where I only buy things associated with the business, right? Office supplies. When you think of Staples, office supply, right? How many of you think of buying toilet paper at Staples? I know, right? I don't either. So what happens is I get these emails because I'm on their discount thing. We do things there. And I kept getting these messages from Staples. They wanted me to buy my toiletries there and my house cleaning goods. Now, I appreciate the fact that they were trying to expand information, or excuse me, their product line to me, but that's all they were doing. Well, you know what happened? I ended up unsubscribing to them. So they've lost me now, and they maybe 1 out of 10 times, they may have a message that appeals to me, but now they've lost me. So by having this segmentation and having better communication, your message very clear, it improves the open and response rates, and it improves your ROI. It improves your rate of, return on your investment. And the reason for that is because, again, your rapport through those things of communication, messaging, and the opening up, it automatically creates better rapport with that audience. And so your return on your investment, in this case, your return on investment are people who book a reservation. People who book a reservation and maybe buy an extra glass, or instead of a glass of wine, they buy a bottle. Or instead of coming once a month, they come twice a month because of your messaging being better. So let's talk about the next thing. Is how do we segment? Because let's put it this way, some of the largest companies on the planet are having trouble segmenting because they don't really know how to do it, or they know how to do it, but it's a big task. We did this for a local company about 2 years ago, and here's what happened. When we segmented the audience, this is what happened. It went from about a 13% open rate to 97% open rate. But it took some time. It took a couple months to cleanse their list and then segment them. But there are many ways to do it, and I'm just going to kind of go through these a little bit. It says, one is email questionnaire, right? So after somebody books a reservation with you and you're getting their email address, you're sending them, after they have dinner with you, a little email questionnaire. Okay, maybe there's a tabletop survey. That's probably my least likely or least favorite, because let's face it, when I go to dinner and I see those on there, I almost feel like, you know what, this is my time. I don't want to be interrupted by that. Either do it before or after, but don't do it during. So I'm not going to say you don't do it. I'm just going to say I think that's my least favorite, is to get a table survey. But a lot of companies do that. Okay, so you can ask little questions there. The next one is through your reservations book. Who's ever taken your reservations should be noting down an email address, the best email address, and maybe the best cell phone contact number. All right. When you're doing this, like I said, my least favorite is a table survey. My most favorite is the survey, and I would say that's this email questionnaire. That's a survey with 3 to 5 questions. And all this is doing is helping you understand your customers better. Because let's face it, if you understand your customers better, just like this little guy on the right, he's trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. In other words, all your customers are not the same. Some don't like sitting by the window. Some don't mind sitting by the kitchen. Some don't ever like to sit outside. Some will never have, let's say, an early reservation at your restaurant. Others will never have a late reservation. And now you can take this square and put it in that square hole, and you know your audience. So you have your stars, your squares, your triangles, and your circles. And now you can communicate with them very, very clearly. So the survey. When should we send that survey? I mean, it's like there's a time and a place to send it. So ideally, it arrives in your customer's inbox within 24 hours of them dining with you. And it's wrapped in a thank you for dining message with a question that says, hey, a favor to help us serve you best. I mean, who wouldn't appreciate that? Hey, we're real happy you joined us. We just ask a favor to help us when you come back to be better serving you. Who wouldn't want to do that? So I want to kind of give you a little bit of an outline of what you might say. First of all, make it personalized. This is not a time for bulk generic messages. Okay, you want to make this as personalized as possible. So in this case, John and Mary came into your restaurant. So you want to say, and now keep in mind, this can be a template, and all you have to do is fill in the blanks, okay? So basically, hey, thank you so much for choosing to dine with us last night. We know there are many choices available, and we are so appreciative for you selecting, and then put your restaurant name in there. Janet, your server, and of course, if it's not Janet, put in the right name. You had X and Y, and this is where you'd put that in, and you would have to have your server now make note of that. Hey, they had filet mignon and they had fish, right? With a beautiful Zinfandel. Now, that may not match this is just an example. This is an excellent wine to pair with the main course of, and then the name of their dish. We would love your help to be of better service. Please answer the following 3 questions. These will be used to help us make your experience each time you come in be exceptional. I mean, let's face it, who would not want to answer these 3 simple questions to make sure the next time they come in and they enjoy dining with you, that their next experience is exceptional? Yeah, I didn't see anybody raise their hand. Okay. So let's talk about the next step. So let's keep going. So let's continue. The 3 questions. How often do you dine with us? Remember, now we're starting to segment. How often do they dine with us? When selecting wine, do you prefer red or white? Wouldn't that be kind of neat? Now, some people might say, yeah, but Jeff, if you have this kind of food, you'd eat red. If you have this kind of food, you would eat, or you would drink white. I get that, okay? But in general, like my wife loves red wine. Me, it's one of those things, if she's having red, I'll probably have red. I'm more for the food, and if I know she's going to pick the right wine. But most of the time, it's red. Unless it's really hot, like we experience now from time to time in the desert, but most of the time, it's red. And then, do you have a special date on the calendar coming up? This is very important because guess what? You can now offer some kind of a special because now you know. Is it a birthday, an anniversary, or graduation? And then have them answer that. These can all be just simple, tick this button, and when they tick that button, give us a date. All right? Next thing you want to do is close and offer a gift. Now, I call this a call to action. You want to close and offer a gift. We want to thank you again for joining us and helping us to get to know you a little better. As our way of showing our appreciation, we would like to give you a gift. No corkage fee. Now, you need to know that they're wine drinkers, obviously. In this example, I know that I'm using an example that we know that this guest, John and Mary, drank wine. All right? And so maybe they only drank a glass of wine each, but we want to upsell them. No harm in upselling. So we put on there, no corkage fee on your next visit when a reservation is booked within 30 days. How cool is that? You now have almost put them into a thing of where, hey, they're going to come back in 30 days, and they get a little gift. So what's happened? Well, the guest came in, we did some follow-up, and in that follow-up we understood, hey, what's the frequency and what's their preference of wine, right? The third thing I would put on there is, hey, what's the special event coming up? In other words, you've now put these people in 3 different, I'm going to call them bins. Okay? And now you can speak to them a little bit differently. And yes, as I say, this will require some additional steps. It will require your people making reservations to capture email addresses and or cell numbers for text communication. It will also require your service to make note of the food and the wine or the cocktail choices they made by the guests. The communication from that point on can be pretty automatic. Now, where would this information go? When you send this email out, I mean, there's all kinds of services out there. And when I say this, it has nothing to do with me getting any kind of kickback or anything, but there are many. You can use services like MailChimp. You can use Constant Contact. You can use Aweber. You can use a more complicated service like Infusionsoft, and you can set this up so you can communicate with these people. So when they click on one of those buttons, let's go back just a second. So let's say at the end of this, there's a button down here, or there's a button right here where it says birthday, anniversary, and they say this, right? So in each one of these little places where they answer, it now segments those answers and puts these people in that bucket, if you will. Just like we saw in the last, those squares at the end, it puts them in those buckets. Now we know if we want to go back and we say, geez, our wine sales are down, especially our red wine. So now we go back and say, well, out of all our customers who patronize our business, who are the red wine drinkers? Well, let's go speak to them, right? Why would we put out a message to the people who drink white wine about a sale on red wine and vice versa? Again, remember, better communication. We want to talk to the people who are most likely to do business with us. And we know this because we've segmented the list, okay? So think about that. How are you going to use this? How are you going to use this? Because segmentation, as we say here, segmentation is really is really your personalization key to communication. So as I say with this, hey, once we have this done, it's an opportunity to say, hey, let's party. Now, there are some questions like, hey, do I do this every time somebody comes in? No, you don't. Once people start coming in, you can say, hey, the first time, if you've never done this, yeah, you need to do everybody, right? Because you don't know who you don't know. Some people might say, well, you know, I'm traveling from out of town. I'll never be here again. Take those people out, right? Unless you do some kind of online sales that you can offer to them. But you can start eliminating those people. That can be done right at the reservation desk, really. You can ask those kind of things. And I know the people we're talking to that run the restaurants, they're already doing this. I know you're doing this already. So you're asking those questions. But take a look at your reservations book. What kind of questions are you asking? Are you asking those questions? How often you come? You prefer red wine or white wine? Are you celebrating a specific event in your life, a birthday, anniversary? What is the one that's going to be coming up the next time? What's the date of that? I wouldn't be offended by that, because then you can communicate with these people. Some people love direct mail, and they'll mail that to me. But now, instead of mailing this generic thing out, you're mailing it to Jeff, and it's about his birthday. By the way, if you want to take note of this, it's August 7th. If you want to take me out for my birthday, it's August 7th. That's August 7th. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not really. If you want to get a hold of me, down on the bottom is my email and my phone number. And we'll go out and we'll have a nice dinner. But what happens is now you start gathering this information. It'll make your job and future so much better. Because let's see how this can help change things. What if you're a restaurant and you have a slow night? Let's say you're looking at the reservations book that morning, and you say, wow, we don't have any things on the books for Wednesday night. So what do? You go back into your segmented list and you say, who are my customers who like to have dinner on Wednesday night? Or who are the people who frequent my restaurant, but I haven't seen them this week? How about if you send them a very specific invitation about coming in Wednesday, and maybe you want to offer something there to get them to take action right now. And all of a sudden you go from having a very light reservation book to now you have a much better evening for reservations. So today we've spoken about segmentation and how important it is to instill segmentation in your business so that when you're speaking to people, they feel like you're speaking to them. And I want to give you one little piece of advice, or one little example. Actually, it's a case study. Amy received a letter in the mail. Amy is my business partner. She received a letter in the mail from a business that she does business with and spends quite a bit of money, and had just recently, I think within the last 5 to 7 days, actually been in their business and had done some tests and whatnot. And she did this, and then she receives this generic email that asked questions that were really out of character. You could tell it was a form letter. Now, I'm not beating on anybody. I'm just saying that's an opportunity. If you have a very specific list, speak to them. Don't speak to the group, right? Hey, if you're Coachella, or you're at Kaboo in San Diego, and you're singing to a massive audience. But if you're serenading somebody, you need to speak to them, or you're going to lose them. It's just like making eye contact. If I always looked over here at this particular screen, because I've got a second screen over here, I would lose you, because I'm really not speaking to you, right? We're really not having a conversation. I want to make that eye contact, and I have to remind myself, because a lot of times I want to look down and look at what I see on my screen with all the devices and whatnot, but I need to make sure I'm making contact with you. So today was about segmentation. If you like this and you want to learn more, down on the bottom of the slides was our contact information. Let me just pull one of those slides back up. And it has our information on there, and then you can basically contact us. So down on the bottom, you can either contact me at 760-413-3508 or Jeff at SwingPointMedia if you'd like to learn a bit more. We're more than welcome to come in and talk to you in your location and help you start this process. Now, Ideally, this is what we do. We help local businesses, restaurants, create programs to get them more reservations. We have a real fun program going on right now, and we actually are, it's very personalized because, again, when do you do personalized and when do you do general? Well, general is like say, for instance, if I'm sending out something blanketed to a large group and it's in general about our hours, right? It's going to affect my entire audience. So I don't have to be so specific. But again, if I'm talking about a sale on a specific thing, like, hey, I just got in Copper River salmon. Well, I wouldn't probably send it to the people who've never ordered Copper salmon. Maybe they've said, I don't like fish, so I'd only send it to them. So I want to speak specifically to them. Well, there's a neat opportunity that I'm not sure most restaurants are taking advantage of, and we're helping them do that, and it's about birthdays. If you think about that, as it says on the screen, let's party. Whenever people have birthdays, do they want to share it alone? Or do they want to spend it alone? Or do they want to share it with their friends? And typically, your audience will want to spend it at your restaurant because they don't want to clean up the dishes. They don't want to cook. They want to enjoy and celebrate. Well, we have a very specific process that we're going through where we actually are reaching out to the audience, the restaurant owners that are most likely to be our ideal customers, and we're creating a very specialized message, personalized message specifically for them. Every one of the videos we made are specifically for them. And we send it to them, a little old-fashioned, we send it to them through FedEx. And when they receive that, all we ask them to do is either A, take that link that we put in the mail, or excuse me, in the letter, or we've actually included a thumb drive with our logo and information on it. Just put it in the computer and watch the video. We walk you through it. It's under 7 minutes. I think that's 6 minutes and 30 seconds, or maybe a little less than that. And in that period of time, we show you exactly what we would do to help you get more reservations. The coolest part about this is July, August, and September are the months where there are the most birthdays. Well, some people might say, yeah, but it's summer here in the desert. And if you're not watching, if you're watching from out of the area, you know, we've had some, excuse my expression, we've had some hellacious, I was going to say scores, but temperatures lately. Buck 22, buck 23, 114 feels like it's a cool day. But my point is, those people like to celebrate. Well, there are, we did some numbers as we're doing these emails that we're putting together on videos, and there are in specific areas, like you saw El Corso in there. El Corso, there's about 9,000 people who celebrate their birthday in the Coachella Valley within a 5-mile radius of El Corso. That because of the way we do the targeting, there's a good chance these people are people who would love to celebrate with their friends, make a reservation for 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 to come in and celebrate their birthday. Well, we put those programs together, make them automated, and help you fill up your reservation book. So that's our little commercial. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have comments or questions, please put them in the comment section down below, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Follow us, and if you have any questions, just put it in there, and we'll be more than happy to get back to you. In the meantime, make sure you put your calendar on your calendar also at 3 o'clock. That's Pacific Standard Time. I also do a show with Leslie Spoor of Executive Errands and Concierge Business Solution. This is for her Concierge Business Solution program. And she talks about business tips and strategies for all local businesses, specifically in the Coachella Valley. So if you like to say, hey, how can I get my business doing better? How can I use some of these traditional methods to get my business performing better? Join us there at 3 o'clock. And I'm kind of the guy who prods her along, and she gives all the answers. So it's a lot of fun. And that's at 3 o'clock on Concierge Business Solution. Hey, until next time, thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff Harrison with SwingPointMedia, and we'll see you again next Wednesday when we talk about, let's see, what are we going to talk about? Let's talk about headlines. Let's talk about headlines, because if you're posting things on Facebook or Snapchat, things like that. I had a meeting yesterday with a gentleman who he is an expert in this, and he said, we're talking about search engine optimization, and he said, if you did this one step right, it is the most powerful process in your SEO approach. It's how to write a headline. So next week, we're going to talk about headlines. Until then, hey, have a great week. I'm going to go start breaking things down and get ready to head over to Leslie's, because we shoot from her location in Palm Desert at 3 o'clock. Thanks again. See you again next time. I'm Jeff Harrison.